Teacup is a cozy, narrative adventure game with a focus on exploration. Created by a team of three incredibly talented individuals, you play as Teacup, an introverted young frog who loves to read and drink tea. The day before Teacup is to host a tea party in her house, she realises that she's out of tea and must venture into the outside world to find the herbs needed to restock her tea pantry. The team behind Teacup wanted to create a game inspired by narrative adventure games such as Night in the Woods and also create a sense of exploration found in games like A Short Hike. The team behind Teacup have definitely achieved this goal and have created an incredibly stunning game with whimsical characters and heartwarming dialogue. My first time playing Teacup was extremely enjoyable, and I had a lot of fun exploring the world, chatting to various characters, and completing a range of tasks that varied in difficulty, but were never too difficult that I had to break my immersion and search up what to do. Which, unfortunately, I do end up doing in some games, but that's more of a me issue. Anyways, after an introduction to the controls, I found my tea recipe book and headed outside. I was greeted by my neighbour Otto the Owl, who gave me his old map of the woods to help me on my journey. However, bits of the map were missing, so it's up to me to restore those areas. The first thing that I immediately recognised whilst playing this game was how visually stunning it was. I'm a sucker for games that look like this, but I have never come across a game so beautiful before. The detail that went into the way this game looks is insane, and I will never stop talking about how much I love it. I headed towards the local market and familiarised myself with some of the vendors. It was here where I met Wren, who would tell me where to find Mint if I helped her arrange her vegetables for the market. Initially, I struggled a bit. I've never been too good at tasks like these, but after a few hints, I was able to arrange her storefront correctly, and in return, she pointed me in the direction of someone who knew where to find Mint. Salamandro was relaxing at the pond when I found him. I asked him about the mint, and he said he would give me Mint if I beat him in a race. This was a pretty simple task, and I won pretty easily, so I finally got the mint that I needed for one of my tea recipes. Once I'd received the first ingredient of many, I got a pretty good idea of how the game was going to go: help out others in exchange for tea ingredients. Another small detail I like about the game is how the ingredients are coloured out initially, but once you discover the ingredient, it's restored in the book. I know it's a simple mechanic, but I love the way it's executed and I find it pretty satisfying. Salamandro also filled in an empty section of the map, which was really helpful to me and led me to my next location, the plaza. I interacted with all of the characters around me, including Adora, who read my fortune cards and hinted that she knows of pink leaves that are underground. I met Vincent at the post office, who gave me a hint to where I could find honey, only if I helped him with his stamps. Again, this was an easy and relaxing task, which I was able to complete swiftly. Vincent then pointed me back to my neighbour Otto, and I'm thinking, okay, dude, could you not have mentioned to me earlier that you kept bees? Like, that would have been incredibly handy and saved me trekking around the plaza. I'm kidding, of course, I know how this game works, but it did make me laugh a little bit. Anyways, after acquiring the honey, I went back to the plaza and met Pancrati, the owner of the local carpet shop. He was panicking about his rugs coming to life and causing chaos, which, I'm not gonna lie, sounds like quite an inconvenience, so I'm gonna step in to lend a hand. Pancrati said I should speak to the magicians who live in a tent nearby the meadows who could help him. Now this was where I encountered the most difficult task I'd been given so far, as it involved searching for a selection of items hidden amongst a huge pile of stuff. There were objects that I found quite quickly, but the smaller objects did take me a little bit longer, and after a few minutes I was able to complete the task. When I drank from the magician's cauldron, I was very surprised when I got transported into a dream dimension. It was completely unexpected, but I loved it, and oh my gosh, this game is just so beautiful. This was actually the spell that I needed to cast on Pancrati's carpets to calm them down, so I headed back to the shop to help him out in a small minigame. In exchange for my help, Pancrati gave me the jasmine that I needed for one of my teas. Next, I met with a group of raccoon brothers in the East Forest, which was a new area, so I was excited to head over there. I was a bit hesitant to approach them at first because, not gonna lie, they look kind of intimidating, but I quickly realised that they're harmless, and I'm once again reminded to not judge a book by its cover. These brothers knew where I could find lemon verbena, so they pointed me in the right direction, and sure enough, the lemon verbena was right there and I was able to get hold of it very easily, which was nice. It was nice to have a short break from the minigames. Next, I adventured through the field where I caught up with two of my old friends, Adele and Evangeline, before helping a fellow tea lover with their orders. In return, they gave me the recipes to all of the basic teas, ticking off another page in my book. Afterwards, I headed to a villa and tried to go down a route, but the route was mysteriously closed, so I made a mental note to come back another time. Inside of the villa lived a very rich cat with some very fancy paintings that looked oddly familiar. Olympia, the owner of the villa, recognised me as Otto's neighbour and mentioned wanting a drink that would transport her into a dream world. I mean, don't we all? Anyways, after acquiring some rooibos tea, but unfortunately not enough, Olympia pointed me towards Ricard, who lived at the port and could give me some more rooibos. On my way to the port, I stopped off at Olympia's neighbour's house. The owner was named Georgina, and she happily gave me some jasmine for my tea, which was very kind of her. Afterwards, I headed to what I think is the port, I'm not too sure, but I ran into Lyndon and Bertol, who invited me to join their boat ride and have a picnic with them. It was a very wholesome catch-up, and just as we were about to have lunch, Lyndon unfortunately dropped all of the picnic into the water, which I would be so annoyed about if I were hungry and expecting lunch, but luckily we're not playing as me today, we're playing as Teacup. So I very kindly fished the lunch out of the water, and in return Lyndon promised to give me cookies for my book. To get these cookies, I had to visit Lyndon in the bakery, so before doing this I went to check out the lighthouse. Inside the lighthouse was Ricard, who I'd honestly forgotten about until now, but he was instantly my favourite character so far, since otters are my favourite animals. Despite Ricard being my favourite character, this task was definitely my least favourite. Personally, I found it the most difficult task in the game, and it definitely took me about 5 minutes, maybe even longer, honestly. I relied on the hints a lot in this minigame, and I was incredibly relieved once I finally completed it and got the rooibos tea that I needed. After picking up the cookies from Lyndon at the bakery, I checked my book to see the progress that I'd made so far. I still needed ginger, lemon balm, chamomile, and rosehip, so a little while to go, which I am more than happy with since I'm really enjoying this game and I don't really want it to end. At this point though, I was a little bit stuck. I didn't have any more prompts from people, so I decided to walk back through some of the areas to see if I'd missed any dialogue. When I was retracing my steps in the field, I realised that there were literally chamomile leaves right in front of me, so feeling a little bit stupid, I quickly picked them up and then left. It was here that I remembered the road closed near the villa, so I headed back over there and was surprised to see that this time there was only one worker instead of two. It turns out that the other worker had gone to the plaza to watch the theatre play that has been mentioned in passing by several characters throughout my journey. The worker was refusing to go back to work until he watched the play, so I refrained from joking about a bad employee and headed towards the plaza to resolve this. I was met with immediate panic from the director of the play as the main character was nowhere to be seen and the show was about to start. I bet you can see where this is going. That's right, it's Teacup's time to shine in the final task of the game. It was a memory game, which I'm not too great at since I have the shortest attention span on the planet, but luckily I didn't fail the game or anything if I messed up. I was just able to repeat the task until I completed it. I expected the final task of the game to be quite tricky, but I still think that Ricard's Lighthouse task was way trickier, but this game was a fun way to start the conclusion of the game. After the play, the worker finally returned to the villa and I was able to explore this new route. The road would take me to my grandma's house, and as I was nearing the end of the game, I was starting to get pretty sad, I'm not gonna lie, but I was looking forward to the final moments of the game. After a stunning boat ride to my grandma's adorable house, like seriously, if I could describe my dream home, I think this would be it. With all the plants and the cozy decor, I love it, honestly. I grabbed some rosehip from Grandma's living room before meeting her in her conservatory. We had a very wholesome catch up and baked cookies together, which was so cute, I loved every moment of it. Grandma gave me the final two ingredients that I needed for my recipe book. I stayed the night and then headed home first thing in the morning. The day was finally here, my tea party, and all of my friends and family had come to visit. I made everyone a tea of their choosing, which really made me want to try out a bunch of new teas after this, before the game sadly came to an end. I absolutely loved Teacup and it's definitely one of my favourite games that I've played this year. You can see the love and the dedication that went into this game, and it really does remind me of why I love cozy independent games so much. As mentioned before, the game is visually gorgeous, and I mean it's just filled to the brim with beauty, but the charming writing and overall storyline are both excellent, and I would highly recommend this game to anyone who loves cozy games and wants to delve into this beautiful world for an hour or so. Teacup is available to play on the PC, Nintendo Switch, Xbox, PS4 and Android and iOS. Thank you so much for watching me explore this adorable, whimsical world, and I hope that you try the game out for yourself and support an amazing team of creatives.